This is like a fun thing, actually. I get to announce here that I'm actually looking forward to. Recently, we had somebody on Facebook reach out and say like, "Hey, like, are you guys coming back? Like, are you doing something else?" And we are back. We're here. We're not going anywhere. Podcast is gonna come back. We're gonna be like, we may be hit or miss here and there, but we're gonna come back. We're gonna ease back into it. This is a lot of work, but we are back. But the other question that this person had was like, "Are you working on something else?" And the answer is yes. I'm starting a church. I'm starting a church, kind of. Um, um, when I didn't get this job, I was obviously disappointed. But even before that, I had this idea for a different kind of church, or like a reimagined church experience that's like not like for at least for me, it's like it's taking out the things that I feel like are maybe traps, or like it's like, I don't know, I feel like we could probably do without this or whatever. But here it is. Here's the grand reveal, ladies and gentlemen. Brewery Church. Love people, drink beer, do good. That's the tagline for you. What it is it's just like a simple concept. Here in Bend, Oregon, we have the most microbreweries per capita. So what that means is like we have a shit ton of breweries, and it's funny, like there's been a few churches that plant in the area and they have like some clever name that kind of reflects the city, and but it's usually like trying to be like really cool and hipster. But I'm like, okay, if I were to start a church, what's more Bend than beer or breweries? And like it's so funny, like this whole like Mark Driscoll thing, like there's like a weird funny caricature of like a Christian who drinks beer and cusses, and like, and that's just kind of funny. But it kind of was reminiscent for me of like, what's his name? The guy who wrote Lord of the Rings, J.R.R. Tolkien. He and C.S. Lewis, they both had this little thing called the Inklings, and they would meet at a pub and hang out, and they would talk about their writing. And I don't know, there's just this vision of like them hanging out. Like, I'm just like, if you look it up, it's on our Instagram actually, for Brewery Church. I forget what it's called, the specific pub that they would go to. Oh, here it is. The Eagle and Child. It's a pub made famous as a meeting place for fantasy authors C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien. And yeah, in Oxford, England. So it just kind of like, it says here that it was for writers get together, and known as the Inklings. They would meet regularly with other academics at the grade 2 listed pub. So, I think I like that. I like that vibe. But, there was this freaking verse that really has stuck with me that kind of led up to this. And it's Jesus talking about feeding the poor. It's about like clothing people and yada yada. Let me just, here it is. Matthew 25:35-40. I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I needed clothes and you clothed me. Whatever you did for one of the least of these, you did for me. And if you read that story in its context, it really maps out. Like he says to one group of people, like, get away from me, you never knew me. Like they said, like, when did we do these things for you? And it's like, and that was like the difference between these people actually being Christians and not, was that they did these really simple things. And so for me, rather than like church around a stage, I kind of want to do church around a table. And for me, like, I don't know, like, when I think about the good in the world that the church does and when it's at its best, I even think of, the denomination that the tradition that I was raised in. It was started back in like the early 1900s, and it was around the Great Depression, and this denomination, which was founded by a woman, Amy Semple McPherson, look her up, was they actually were like feeding, like, rather than just the government. You know how the churches say like, oh, like that's the church's job. It's like this church, at least in that area, was like, they were like doing that. And so I don't know, I just think that's really beautiful. But I had this idea, because I have this desire to do ministry. I do, and I know this podcast is, a part of that. I know that it's helped people, and we get encouraging responses and all of that. But, there was also this thing in me that was just like, okay, you know what? I think I'm just kind of tired of the digital online thing where, especially like when you're just like kind of bitching and complaining about stuff, like you really do just create an echo chamber, and I don't know, you can attract people from like across, the country or the world for that matter. And like, they're going to agree with you and whatever, but it's just like, you're kind of attracting like this one type. And I don't know, like that's kind of what I love about like this thing about like forced proximity, like being in a community with real people and like forcing yourself to stay, like even when you don't want to be a part of it sometimes, or you're just like kind of sick of it. Like, I don't know, there's just like this commitment to a place or a people that I find really compelling, and it's not just based on preference. And I feel like so much of online like is that, where I'm like, oh, I'm going to follow this person, I'm going to unfollow them. Or like, then we get into this weird valorizing of, oh, like I got blocked by Dave Ramsey. Like, okay, cool. Good for you. Like, who the fuck, like that's a badge of honor. Cool. Like, like that's not really doing anything good. Like, you're just kind of creating more of a echo chamber, and you're making things more divisive. Like, if anything, like, I do want to be more of a bridge builder. And at the end of the day, like, I just, you know what? I'm just kind of sick and tired of talking about what I believe or don't. Like, it just kind of, I don't know, it just kind of gets a little bit like masturbatory, where it's just like, are we just jerking off? I don't mean to be crass, but it's like, what is the point? And, freaking Bob Goff, him in his book Love Does, it's like, this whole idea of like faith in action, or, there's this book I read in Bible college, or I was supposed to read. It was called Head, Heart, Hands. And it was all about an emphasis on like which churches focus on which. So head, it's like really intellectual and thought provoking. And, you get like seminary nerds, and it's all about splitting hairs and how many angels can float on a freaking bobby pin or something like that. I don't know. Or I don't know if you know that saying. I clearly don't. And then head, heart is all about like, I don't know, like feeling and like the like love and all that good stuff. And then like hands is like doing. It's like, what are you actually doing in the world? And I don't know, like I think all three, like there's a holy trinity there. It's like, I think you can't have one without the other necessarily, but at least in my own faith, I'm like, I don't know, I'm just kind of, my faith isn't really doing anything. Like, in a faith without works is dead. I'm just literally recalling right now. Like, that's a real thing. Like, I don't know what it's like in your town where you live, but just recently over the last few months in particular, and like it's getting cold. It's like we're in the fall. We're just about around the corner with winter, and there's been way more of like a homeless population in my town. Like there's tents in certain pockets, like near the the highway or the parkway, and I know I'm like a sensitive little boy sometimes, and like and I see that, and it kind of like, and I feel for people, like I do, but like I don't always have like, it's like cool, like does God just want me to feel bad, or like to have like, I don't know. So anyway, this idea of like serving people in like this really simple idea of like creating care packages and partnering up with breweries and not meeting at a church building and like being in the city and like doing good in the world. Like there's just something that felt right about it. So that's something that we've been working on. Brewery Church. If you want to check it out, you can go to brewery.church or brewerychurch.co, I believe. Brewery.church. Just give that one a shot. I know that one works. So, yeah, I do consider this a ministry, Refreshingly Honest Christian. I want it to serve people. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that's what I've been up to. Starting this nonprofit. It's a church, but it's really like, it's like a low key hangout. We meet at breweries, Sunday nights. And we're putting together like care packages, and we're drinking beer, we're hanging out. We're kind of like, it's an extension. This is how I view it, as an extension of Refreshingly Honest Christian. It's like, I want to extend these conversations, this kind of like flavor, or, the conversations that we're having here on this podcast. Like I want to have with real people, like, in a room, I don't know, over beers, like just talking, hanging out. And, I don't know. And I think that's where like real relationship is found. And I don't know. I just think there's a lot of good that could come from it. And, yeah, I want to bloom where I'm planted. I want to, Here's the thing that kind of hit me was like, with this job in particular that I didn't get for the second time at my home church. Like I really was kind of faced with a choice. Like, if I want to be a pastor, which I that's what I'm like trained for. Like that's what I've, I went to school for. Like, I did the internships. Whatever. Like I that's my passion. That's my skill. That's where my heart's at. So it's like, I'm kind of faced with this thing where I'm like, I'm not really accepted. And like, that was kind of a thing that kind of came up in the interview. Like, it was like, hey, like, you're kind of salty. You've said some stuff, or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, 'cause I'm a real person. And there's some, and like, that was like a thing. Like, I almost felt like I was being faulted for it in the interview. I don't think that's exactly why I didn't get it, but, I'm like, okay, so if I'm trying to look at this thing objectively, and I'm like, okay, I could just start applying for other jobs, other pastoral jobs, and I could go somewhere. And I'm like, no, I don't want to up and leave. I don't want to uproot my life, because this is my home. Bend, Oregon, like I can draw a circle around it. This is where I was born and raised. I have roots here, and I'm not going to lie. Like over the pandemic, over like the presidential election, like I definitely burnt some bridges for sure, but I also don't necessarily regret a lot of that either. But I've also like, even recently, like really like reconnected and with some old friends, and I don't know. It's just been really good. But I guess what I'm trying to say is like, I don't know. Like I'm still here. I'm still doing, I still enjoy this. I think there's a lot of good that these conversations can have in a digital environment. Hopefully. But like for me personally, I'm like, this can't be it, you know? But yeah, this new idea, of Brewery Church, I want to, with where I'm at right now, this is what I feel like is the next step for me. And if you're listening to this and you're in the area and you want to be a part of that, feel free to reach out. I think this is, I'm still in the early beginnings. Like we're tentatively like I have our first thing. We did like a low key thing over the summer, but we have our first thing happening November 14th. And tentatively that's at Ben Brewing Company, and shouts out to Ben Brewing. I want us to brew our own beer. That'd be pretty cool. Like our own church parking lot beer. And it could be like I don't know, like a light citrusy beer. I don't know, something delicious. I don't know. So yeah, what else? Brewery Church. Check it out if you're interested. I guess I'll just land with this. I'll stop ranting. I think Jesus might have been onto something with this whole talk of loving your neighbor. And for me, I'm taking that one to the bank, all the way to the bank, and I'm taking it literally. I don't like to read the Bible literally very much, but at this point, I'm all for loving my digital neighbor, but I think loving the people that are immediately next to you, who live and breathe around you, I think that's the call. That's the greatest commandment, as Jesus would say. And I just want to get better at that. I'm not saying this as an expert. I'm not even saying this as a pastor. I'm a companion on the journey with you on that one, my friend. And I don't do it perfectly. I don't do it well all that often. I'm definitely not. Yeah. I'm doing this imperfectly. But I am choosing Jesus, and I'm still in this. I'm still in the game. With all my questions, all my doubts, with everything in me that seems fragmented or contradictory, I don't think that it contradicts it. I think that's what faith is. Faith is a mystery. Faith is not certainty. And I think when we reduce it to that, we're doing not only ourselves, but I think God a disservice. Because nothing's promised. We're all going to die someday. The tattoo that I got, it's a skull. And I recently heard John Mark, of all people, kind of riff on this recently, that like old monks, like in old writings, like there's like this, a lot of us, when we think about skulls, we think of like liquid death here. We think of like metal branding, or we think of like, but it's like a lot of like old literature. It's like keeping your mortality before you and reminding yourself, like, it's like, like death is a part of this thing and nothing is promised. And how we have it all like mapped out in our minds, the stories that we tell, like, it's like, I don't know exactly. But why not do some good while we're here? Why not love people? Why not alleviate suffering? not just with like Brewery Church, but like I started this new business where I'm literally just doing odd jobs, like literally straight up blue collar, just doing it. And it's called Bend Odd Jobs, and I have this vision of how like that can support Brewery Church. So it's like with Brewery Church, like there's no one's getting paid. Like if if this thing were to take off like and have a life of its own, it's like I want all of the money to go towards towards the mission, which is like actually like taking care of people and like widows and orphans and poor people and all this stuff, like but I'm like, okay, like, so I'm taking that to the bank. I'm like, okay, there's a lot messed up. There's things that I see in churches where it just feels like this is a platform, which, if I'm being honest, was kind of what attracted me to it in the first place, was like, oh, I want to be a speaker. I want to get on stage. I want the lights to be shining down on me. I want to have the microphone in my hand, and I want people to look at me. I want to be the alpha on stage, and I have something to say. And that's not all bad, but let's be real. There's some weird motives in there. And that's kind of, I think, what leads to like Mark Driscoll, weird narcissistic pastor bullshit that we see. And that's not, I mean, I don't know. Like, that's not even necessarily like a full criticism on him. Like, I think what I've been seeing with that podcast, Rise and Fall of Mars Hill, if you haven't already checked that out, there's like what we've seen is like God works in mysterious ways. Like God still works within our weakness, and he works within our shortcomings and with our profoundly toxic bullshit that we bring to the table. And I don't know, like I'm kind of just sick of the cancel culture bullshit. Like I'm all for like calling out hypocrisy and like making things better for sure. I think that's a part of like the prophet's job. But you know what? Like, that's not the only thing. Like there's other moves. There's other ways that we can make things better or reform. And for me, I don't know. I taking a note from Jordan Peterson. I'm trying to set my house in perfect order before I criticize the world. And I'm literally like I'm like actually going in and like, I just cleaned out my garage because I like bought all this. I recently bought a truck. I don't know if you can see, but I have a mustache, which is pretty impressive, obviously. But I'm doing all this stuff, and I'm working with my hands, and I'm trying to integrate this like farm boy agricultural lesson stuff that I was taught, but also like using my brain and just I'm not just going to reduce myself down to like a caricature of a person. And when it comes to my faith, I just want to keep it simple. I want to love people. I want to like just do good in the world. And, like if the excuse is like we hang out and drink beer and like then that's great, but I am kind of sick of the sermonizing. I'm kind of sick of I just don't think I can listen to another freaking sermon from like a wannabe Judah Smith, Tim Keller type. I don't know. I just don't think I could do it. I enjoy a good sermon. I do. Somebody who's like bringing the word, who's bringing it, who's preaching, like, oh my gosh. But like, I think if there's anything that I could say about my generation, and I'm going to land the plane here, okay? I know I've been ranting, but that's why you're here. This is a podcast. So preaching is great. Preaching is awesome. It's great. But like the thing that I think that I'm sick of, and this is me speaking as a millennial, is I'm so sick of the style, the hype preachers, the Chad Veaches of the world, like the freaking Rich Wilkerson, that guy. A lot of these guys, I think, probably have a lot of good stuff to say. They're probably good people at the end of the day, but I'm just like, oh my gosh, so many of the people that I went to Bible college with are just trying to be that. And they have these little hip little churches that they plan, and it's just all about like attracting a one type of individual, and it's just all about looking good. And I just freaking hate it. I'm just kind of annoyed. Like, it's just no substance, all style, all sleek, all pizzazz, and I'm just, I don't know. I don't know, guys. I don't know if that's if that's the way forward. So anyway, I'm just speaking for myself here, and I just want my faith to be real. I want, in my own life, in my own ministry, the things that I am a part of, and not just leading, but like just being a part of, like, I don't know, I want to be a part of something that's not causing harm in the world. Objectively, like, this is actually doing good. Without this, like, people would suffer more. Yeah. And that is another thing. Like, that's like, what's undeniable? What is worth, like, if you get down to the bedrock of your faith, like, what's worth holding on to? And like, what can you, like, what's true objectively, capital T. And for me, like, I don't know a bunch of stuff, but like, what I can take to the bank, what I know for sure is that, like, man, is that people are suffering. That life is hard. That's one thing that Jesus and Buddha can both agree on, that life is suffering, that it's hard. In this life, Jesus said, you will have challenges. You will, I mean, that's just a part of it. And I guess for me, like, being somebody who was like raised in a really poor family, a really dysfunctional, broken family, where, and I'm not trying to like get sympathy or I'm not trying to complain about it. I'm just trying to share with what was going on. Like, there was times where food wasn't really always promised. There was times when, like, basic things, like, I would literally go to school just so I could eat that day. Like, free lunches was like a thing. And there was a time that really hit me, because I, over the pandemic, where the school lunch, like the school district in our area was still giving out lunches to kids because they needed it. That's like, because they know how important that is. And that was me. Like, when I look back on a lot of stuff with, like, people who were, like, I don't know. I can get really cynical about this stuff. And I don't mean to, and I don't want to necessarily, because that way lies madness, in the words of Ron Swanson. But there was times when I feel like people were doing things for me for the wrong reasons. They were doing good things for the wrong reasons. And how that's possible, I don't know. But it's like, I always felt like there were some people who they would do nice things for me, and when it was convenient for them, and then there was also like a weird, like, we have something over you because we did this for you kind of thing, kind of strings attached, and like no dignity, just like you're a charity, and and you're a project, and we're doing this for like weird religious Christ coins. Like, you're our treasure in heaven. Like, I'm not even kidding you. Like, one person literally like compared me to like a project, like a it was so weird looking back. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, when I get down to the bottom of this stuff, it's like, man, I can preach the best sermon in the world, and like, God knows, like, I've had dreams of that for myself. Like, you know, I want to be the next John Mark Comer. I want to be the next Judah Smith, or, you know, whoever. Like, those guys, like, those are guys that I really look up to, and like, I think actually have not just style but a lot of substance. But I'm like, I don't know. I think for me, with where I'm at and what I can do, is I can help alleviate some of the suffering in my world. In this, I don't know about your world, but I can do it in my world. And for all I know, that is the world. My world is the world. You know, I can't change the world, but I can change my world. And I can clean my room. I can set my house in perfect order, and I can position myself in a way that's doing the most amount of good, and not just complaining, and not just bitching, and not just like, it's just not constructive after a while. And I want to do something about it. And funny enough, freaking Foursquare Church, the official Twitter account, I actually tweeted that, stop complaining, start doing something about it, and they liked it. And I didn't even know they were following me. I guess, I don't know if it was like, there's like a college friend that like manages that account, like, follow, maybe they knew me in college or whatever, and I don't know. All I'm saying is, it feels like you're trying to tell me something, Foursquare, that I've been bitching up to this point, and they're like, yes, David, we want to tell you something, that you should stop complaining and you should start doing it. So that's my endorsement from the Foursquare Church. I am commissioned, and I have authority to go and do what good in the world. And so yeah, check out Brewery Church. We have some merch on there too if you want to support it. 100% of the proceeds go towards creating care packages for the less fortunate in Bend, Oregon, in my area. And yeah, I want to help people who are low income, because that was me, you know? Like, I narrowly escaped poverty. I mean, really, like, I was raised in a really dysfunctional family, and we were poor, and, you know, I started living with friends in high school, and they had middle-class families, and thanks to those families, I am where I am by the grace of God. And a lot of them brought me to where I am today, you know, and I, you know, I don't know. I want to commit myself to real people, and not just people who I like, not just people who I think I like, you know, who agree with me on everything theologically from A to Z. So yeah, really good stuff, you know, just trying to share a little bit about me, a little bit about old David Metcalf here. So anyway, that's it, my friends. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. I know it's been a while. It's been 5 months, but we're back. The comeback kid is here. That's me. He knocked me down. Life is swinging hard, but I'm swinging harder, okay? I'm going to get back up. You can knock me down. I've been knocked down before, but it's time to get the fuck back up and keep going. And, you know, sometimes you need a little bit of tenacity. You need some resilience. And, with all these people that I feel like a lot of, like, really, like, progressive peeps, and that if that's you, that's, that's cool. But I'm just saying, a lot of people that I feel like are, like, blacklisted, like Dave Ramsey or whoever, like Jordan Peterson or Joe Rogan, Jocko Willink, all these people who I feel like get a really bad rap and are like, that person. It's like, okay, well, the one thing that I feel like I can pick up from these guys is that they are leaving me feeling empowered. Oftentimes they're leaving me challenged, for sure. I don't always agree with a lot of what these people say, but that's not the point. The point is, life is hard, and we live in a really, really messed up world, and that's it. And how are you going to get through? How are you going to get through it in a way that's constructive, not only for you but the person next to you? I mean, that's the ultimate challenge. So, I hope that you leave here today feeling a little bit stronger, a little bit more encouraged, a little bit, all those things, I want this to be a safe place for sure. I'm not just white knuckle it, pull yourself up by your bootstraps kind of guy. But sometimes there is a place for that. I don't know. In some respects, yes, we need therapy. Yes, it's okay to cry. But that's all I'm trying to say. Let's just make room for people, okay? On every side, each side of the political spectrum here, right wing, left wing, I don't care. I care about the whole bird, as Billy Graham would say. Watch out. R.I.P. Franklin Graham. Franklin Graham sucks, but whatever, it's fine. Anyway, okay. Thanks, my friends. That's it for me. Till next time. To getting better, not bitter. Bye. Okay, that's enough.